The man was on the verge of turning into a zombie. But when he heard the soft voice of his young daughter, his mind became clear again, because he was the only family she had left. Just a few hours earlier, they had been a happy family of 3. However, when the man woke up from unconsciousness, he discovered that his wife had already turned into a zombie. Panicked, he fled from the car only to suddenly remember that his daughter was still in the back seat. He had no choice but to return and confront his wife. During the struggle, he was bitten. This meant that he had only 3 hours left before he, too, would become a zombie. Holding his young daughter in his arms, he remembered the final words his wife had written before she changed. "Save our daughter." That became his only goal. He decided to spend the last hours of his life getting his daughter to safety. He pulled out a map, located the nearest safe zone, and immediately set out with the child on his back. However, the infection was spreading faster than he had expected. Before long, he found himself unable to resist picking up a piece of rotting meat from the ground. Fortunately, his daughter's voice brought him back to his senses. He kept the piece of meat, not to eat it, but to hang it from his pocket to mask his scent. To keep his daughter calm, he found a balloon and tied it to his shoulder to distract her. An hour later, the infection grew more painful. He collapsed, growling in agony. But he refused to give up. He was determined to keep his daughter alive. He pushed through the pain and continued on his way. To prevent himself from hurting her, he tied up his own hands. He also hung the rotten meat in front of him, using it as a lure to keep moving forward. Then, his daughter made a small sound. He turned his head. By then, he had fully turned into a zombie. But somewhere deep in his mind, a faint trace of memory reminded him this was his child. With great effort, he turned his head away. And so, the zombie father carried his daughter on his back and followed the route he had planned. No one knew how long they traveled. Eventually, they reached an open field. Suddenly, gunshots rang out, and the man fell to the ground. They had arrived at the safe zone. Several survivors came forward to inspect the scene. At first, they did not notice the child. They only found the man's appearance strange. Why was he carrying a bag of inedible rotten meat? Just as they were about to leave, they heard the sound of a child crying. A woman rushed over and, to her shock, found a young girl strapped to the man's back. Everyone was stunned. Only when they saw the message written on the child's belly did they understand. All of it had been for one reason: a father's final act of love.